You have led an outstanding life by any standards, to which your autobiography, which you already wrote in, I think, 97 and was published in 1988, bears witness to. And in it, one of the parts which I personally was struck by most was at the beginning, when you recount the experience of the day your father, Zulfikar Bhutto, the Prime Minister, was executed by the commander-in-chief who had overthrown his regime, General Zia. Is that memory still as vivid in your mind today? And to what extent did such a key event influence you to be the woman you are today and to be the politician you've become today?
It changed the course of my life. I had no intention of going into politics, and had my father lived, perhaps I would have chosen a different life for myself, a more stable life. But his assassination at the hands of a military dictator convinced me that I had to fight for his ideals, for a liberal and democratic Pakistan. And I was plunged into this new world of politics at a very young age. Of course, I've learned a lot climbing up the ladder since then, but it was a totally new world for me.
So would you say that your father had not intended you to go into politics? Because the remarkable thing was that he sent his two daughters to be highly educated, which at the time in a Muslim country such as Pakistan was not usual.
You're right. My father always wanted me to go into politics. When he was Prime Minister of Pakistan, Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister of our neighbor, India. So my father would always say that if Nehru's daughter can become Prime Minister of India, my daughter is going to become Prime Minister of Pakistan. And I'd say, no, Papa, that's not the world for me. But it's something that he felt would happen. I don't know whether I reminded him of himself or what qualities he saw in me, but he always felt that I would enter politics and that I would be elected to Prime Minister. And when I was elected as Prime Minister, I had a tremendous sense of vindication for him because he had given his life for democracy, for myself in that I had lived up to his expectations, and for my party that we could once again begin the dream of reconstructing our nation.
I want to still go a bit further in your personal biography. Following the death of your father, you were then pursued, you were put into detention several times, you were in exile. How did you find the strength to continue in this struggle, and what were the lowest moments? What do you remember looking back?
Well, there were many, many low moments when my father was killed and we weren't even able to attend his funeral. When I was imprisoned and nearly died in prison because of neglect, there were death threats, there were many low moments. But you know, when I look back to that period, there was such a sense of a mission. And not only myself, but everybody else was caught in a frenzy. It was as though there was a goal that had to be achieved and everything else was precluded. And we devoted ourselves wholly, fully, solely to getting rid of Zia and his military dictatorship. And it was that sense of zeal or mission that really sustained all of us in that time.
And do you think it was because you were the daughter of Zulfikar Bhutto that you had more ease as a woman to convince the people in your party and in your country? And wouldn't normally there be certain boundaries, certain limits to your actions because you're a woman and because it's a Muslim country?
Partially, yes. Because I was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's daughter, I was given a great degree of respect and a great degree of support. And my father's followers saw in me the embodiment of his dreams. So they rallied around me. But it also had to do with Pakistan's liberal tradition. When we were fighting for our independence, women used to come out on the street and demonstrate against the British, who were then part of our subcontinent as the colonial rulers. So part of it was that I was Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's daughter, but part of it was also because of this very strong liberal constituency in Pakistan ever since its independence.
And would you say that according to the Quran, you can, as a woman, have higher education, study, become active in politics? Or is there
Of course, I think that religion, first of all, I think religion is a personal matter and each person must interpret it for themselves. So, what I'm telling you is my interpretation as a Muslim. And for that, I believe that God gives men and women equal rights. In fact, Islam goes beyond Christianity in that Islam gives inheritance to women, the right to divorce to women, the right to child custody to women, whereas Christianity is silent on these issues. So I think that this is really a social charter. What is marriage in Islam? It's a contract where both parties say we are coming together to have a family and these are the terms by which we will live together. So I think that Islam really is a religion of liberation, but that there is a mafia of tribal thoughts, patriarchal thoughts, the traditional society which has used religion to maintain the principles of a bygone era.
You then very spectacularly swept to power in 1988. You became one of the youngest leaders in the world, but mainly you became the first female prime minister of a Muslim country. However, and I think that was a disappointment for many, you then were ousted from power on corruption claims. And then in your second tenure as prime minister, you were ousted again on corruption claims. And now, as has been in the headlines, you have been, in your absence, convicted on corruption claims. What you counter to these claims?
These corruption claims are all bogus, and the people of Pakistan have already rejected them, because ever since our country was founded in 1947, the establishment has used corruption charges to eliminate popular leaders. So I'm not the first of the popular leaders to have been charged with corruption, and I'm not the first of the popular leaders to have been sought to be eliminated through the judicial process. It pains me when people say I've been convicted. A citizen gets convicted after a fair trial. The man who sat as judge in my case, his brother is a member of the ruling party. His father killed my father, sentenced my father to death. And he himself was Deputy Attorney General for General Zia, who kept me behind for more than 5.5 years in prison. So the man is partisan, he's politically committed. He was nothing more than a political handmaiden for the Islamists to eliminate the liberal alternative and to secure their own stranglehold on Pakistan. The people of Pakistan have rejected these charges. And I hope that the Supreme Court of Pakistan will withstand the pressure of the Islamists and give justice to me. And it's not just justice to me. If it was just my fate, perhaps I'd be less concerned. But it's the fate of Pakistan. This is really taking Pakistan and throwing it to the fundamentalists.
What would you say, though, to, and I'm sure you're aware of that, the fact that the New York Times held a very long and thorough, apparently, investigation into these allegations, where at least some of the claims they could also support by having interviewed a lot of witnesses abroad. And mainly, it was your husband who came up on accounts, on deals with Dassault or whatever. And sorry, I just want to add one little question before you answer, is that some of your friends...
You know, I lose
yes,
the track
it's
of
just
all the
regarding,
questions.
I understand, it's just regarding your husband, that actually the claims go more against your husband, and that one thinks maybe you could not, I don't know, rein him in.
Number one, my husband never approached me to ever speak to anybody, to influence any contract. Number two, my husband was a businessman till July 1996. Under Pakistani law, he had a legitimate right to conduct business. Number three, New York Times witnesses, where did they go? None of them came in a court of law. There was a court of law, but not a single witness was produced who said that Asif Zardari or Benazir Bhutto spoke to me or tried to influence me. Number four, not only were there no witnesses, but those papers that were printed in the New York Times, where are the originals? The Pakistanis couldn't produce the originals. They said, we've given the originals to the Swiss court. So we said, wait for the Swiss. There's no Swiss court. There's an investigation. Where is the court? So there are no original papers. There are no people who come and say, yes, I wrote this paper. So the whole thing has been based on half-truths which are then elaborated into a grand fantasy. My husband is a businessman. He does business. He has money, he buys a house, he has bank accounts. Everybody has bank accounts. But where did he use my influence? Where did he sack somebody or promote somebody to get anything done?
I understand. Your husband is actually currently in jail and has been for
And
some
on Dasso,
time.
I want to tell you on Dasso, the inquiry on Dasso has been finished and my husband was never involved in it.
Will you return to Pakistan?
Yes, I will return to Pakistan. Pakistan is my home and I want to be there. I have stayed out temporarily only because I think that I can better lead my party from outside than being silenced in a prison wall. And I felt that's what they want to do. They want to lock me up in prison, fragment the Pakistan People's Party, ensure that we cannot continue fighting. And I wanted to stop that. I wanted to stop them eliminating me from politics by using prison walls. I see it very temporarily, and I'd like to recreate the fervor that we created in 1986, and I'd like to go back once again to Pakistan and lead the movement for a restoration to democracy, liberalism, and the emancipation of our people.
The Taliban regime, how would you assess that? How do you explain that?
Well, the Taliban rose up suddenly when I was in power, and at that time there was a lot of talk that we were supporting them. We were, in a sense, giving them political and diplomatic support, but we weren't giving them financial or military support. The Taliban were unable to take Kabul until my last days, after my brother had been killed, and it became clear that I was going, the mandate that I had given for Pakistan to pursue diplomatically through persuasion was violated, and the Taliban went it alone. Now, when I look back at it, in retrospect, I feel that both the international community and we mishandled the issue.
So you actually think you misread the threat?
Well, I say that things weren't as bad when we were there, in the sense that while people were concerned about the Taliban did not have total control over Afghanistan.
But while you were there, for instance, the now sought-after terrorist Osama bin Laden was already allegedly in Afghanistan.
No, I only know that Osama bin Laden went to Afghanistan sometime in 97 or 98, long after our government had been dismissed in 1996. And let me tell you, Osama bin Laden would not have gone to Afghanistan while I was there, because Osama bin Laden is part of this entire militant movement, and I have been their enemies long before the West became their enemy. They wanted to get a base, and I was the one who was a threat to their base. Osama bin Laden paid $10 million to have me overthrown in 1989. This money was given to Mr. Nawaz Sharif because he thought of Mr. Nawaz Sharif as one of them. In 1993, Mr. Ramzi Yousef made the world terrorist who did the New York bombings. He made 2 attempts to assassinate me. I don't know, they must have done other things too. So there was no question that Osama bin Laden would take the risk of coming anywhere near Pakistan had I been Prime Minister of Pakistan.